corporation that supports those decisions to give you that political coverage necessary to make those tough decisions. Because frankly, they're not hearing from the business community enough. And they're not hearing the stories from the business community that Kevin referred to of how sustainability, attacking carbon, all these different issues actually is great for business. So what they are hearing from is sort of the mantra of just don't regulate. So yes, businesses are attacking it. Yes, it's starting to have some impact, but we have a long way to go before it has.
And just to tell her to give you a little bit of hope on that, and also the other side of it is that the reason why I mentioned the $64 trillion in assets and being bigger than all these global economies is showing that business is moving and not waiting for regulation. Yeah. So they're forcing it, but yeah, it very much is getting covered. So it's not just Starbucks, but you have companies like DuPont and American, AEP Energy and Duke Energy, who are going to Congress and saying, we know we need to do something on carbon. We've got all these damn coal power plants. We figured it out, but please put regulation out there because we have to do something. We can't just, we're not going to voluntarily put in all these scrubbers and everything and then let everyone else continue to pollute. And so they've actually come up and started to say it. The problem is the political system is just completely broken. But on the federal level, but what you should know is on the state and more on the local level is, it was started here by Mayor Nichols and there's by the Green, there was a group of mayors that signed what's called the Kyoto Protocol locally, or the mayor's commitment to climate change. Well, 1,054 of the largest 1,500 cities in the United States have signed on to this as policy at the municipal level. So municipalities are moving. So when we say government is moving even though the federal level is dropping.
So this actually dovetails pretty well with the last question. My name's Stephen Johnson. I build synthetic fuel plants. So we'll be producing ultimately life cycle carbon negative diesel and jet fuel and electrons. My challenge is I have to be able to make a case to an investment bank to give me the $4 billion I need to build a large-scale plant. And I have absolutely no idea what to tell them about what a ton of avoided carbon emissions is going to be worth in 2017. And right now, absent a coherent federal policy, there's no way I can generate a defensible number there. So right now, that's carried on our financial projections is a zero. So I guess what I want to ask is, what is it worth to Starbucks and Microsoft for a ton of avoided carbon emissions in 2017?
42.
It depends on the assumptions you want to make to the planet. That's something we can do there. But what I would say is it's such a hard market even on prices for all, whether it's energy or offsets. But I just take a look at what the prices are today, knowing that they are so artificially low, and do an analysis, present value analysis out there, out to 17 or maybe to 20. And then I'd also add in different factors, and I'd include not only what it costs to offset during that period of time, but then I'd also include in some of the soft variables there and just define a value for each of those soft variables. It's risk mitigation, it's in the absence of a global price, what is the impact from the EU versus Australia versus Canada, and define what those values are and just throw them into that model. And it seems, it sounds haphazard, but it's just so difficult to make that calculation. I don't know, that's just off the top of my head.
I'd say look at California, the allowances that were just passed last month, do a net present value calculation out to 2017, and then use an example of the United States Navy moving to 25% biofuels by that time, which it's committed to. And you talk and just look at what the overall supply would be, just do a micro case. So here's California as an example, here's the global availability of synthetic fuels. Here's what the Navy is going to take in and of itself, so maybe 50% of the global market, and throw some different prices on there, what it could be, and then give it your best shot.
For Microsoft, how have you or will you incorporate Microsoft research into your efforts?
more and more. The Green Group actually sits in corporate R&D, and we've got a group out of Bainbridge, England, doing quite a bit of analysis on climate change and the impacts of climate change, and using technology to go there. And so we actually are, it's so embarrassing, we just found each other. And so we are starting to work more closely together, especially because we've got a carbon fee model, and we're talking about what are the risks to different pricing and to different futures that we see. So more and more is the answer to that. We are getting more and more integrated. So they're doing some great work.
John?
So, primarily for TJ and Jeff, so we was talking taking the true costs into your supply chain, making people accountable for them, and then using that as incentive to share benefit or squeeze out. So 5 to 10 years out, do you see customers being part of that supply chain? In other words, right now I can go to Starbucks, and as long as I buy the Starbucks cup, I can get a little bit off of my coffee. So both, particularly in the IT world, do you see a day where, for example, if Microsoft has the carbon fee program and otherwise decided to source power for its data centers from a solar plant, for example, do you see that extending out into your customer base where their use of Microsoft products and the energy that it would take actually gives them some skin in that game as well? And similarly, in terms of the way coffee is sold, products are sold, is there a way that you can take this externality philosophy out into your customer base so there's pull on this and shared benefit for doing it right?
First step is we are exploring that level. So first I wanted to get the internal operations steady with this model. Whether it's our suppliers and then with our customers, right now I'm focusing on internalizing all that cost into Microsoft so that our customers, let's say they come to the Microsoft cloud, it can be a carbon neutral cloud, net zero carbon cloud. There are different product groups that have actually talked to their customer base separately before I got this policy passed that said, do you want to pay extra for a carbon neutral cloud or for your services? And so we're exploring different ways to have that happen. As I see it now, Microsoft is leading with the effort internally to be responsible, and then how we work with providing our customers more efficient technology so the customers consume less energy, and then requesting that as well from our suppliers is something that we're brainstorming right now. But we're definitely thinking how we can kind of extend this thinking.
So John, for us, the key sort of path to success for that level of engagement is helping our customers really create a level of transparency into what we do as a company, and create a level of transparency into our industry as a whole. Because the ultimate place that we want to get to is that the U.S., or not the U.S., but the global consumer actually has the ability to vote with their dollar. And what I mean by that is the decisions that a consumer makes every day impact sustainability directly, because they're choosing to buy products or to solicit services or do whatever with options. And if they don't have an understanding of the impact towards sustainability, climate, carbon, whatever it is around those decisions, then they're not able to fully utilize their power as a consumer and their power as a citizen. So what we're really focusing on first is to try to create that level of transparency so that people understand the impacts of coming to Starbucks versus the impacts of going somewhere else on the world, per se. And really using technology as much as we can to create that storytelling, to create that transparency. Whether it's as simple as putting a QR code on a bag of coffee so that when you scan it, you know exactly what farm it came from, you know what practices were engaged in that farm, and you know what's happening, so that all right, if I buy this pound of coffee, it's coming from this guy who's deployed these sustainability practices, whereas if I buy this pound of coffee, it's not. So that's step one, and then step two, I think, is what TJ was talking about really is that level of cooperation. But the consumer plays an essential role that we have not yet tapped in this world, and we really just kind of drug them along in this entire process and not really engaged the power that they have with technology.
What I just say is that if any of you looked at Black Friday, Patagonia actually was running ads that say, don't buy anything today.
Yeah.
And I got to imagine that going to their CFO and saying, we're going to run this ad